Hi all, in this video we will talk about OAuth 2.0 framework. Before OAuth 2.0 framework, there was another thing that was released, OAuth 1.0. But it is different from OAuth 2.0 and we are not going to talk about that. We will specifically concentrate on OAuth 2.0. Before going deep dive into the architecture and the other components, first let us understand why this framework was created and what is it for. So we will understand that with a simple example. Okay. Now let us assume that you have your photos. Like everyone has Google Drive account, right? And on Google Drive account you have photos. Okay. Now you want to print your photos. So I want to print few of my photos from the Google Drive. So for that what I'll do is I'll take this photo printing service. Like there is a service which will basically print photos. Like if you give photo to this printing service, it will give the photo. Now my photos are on Google Drive, right? My photos are on Google Drive here, and my printing service, like I have to provide a printing service details, right? I have to provide photos to my photo printing service. So what I will do, what like before what 2.0, what people used to do is maybe they will share the credentials, so like user credentials, like my Google Drive credentials to the photo printing service, so that photo printing service will log into the Google Drive, and then it will fetch the photos and then it will print it. So that is the traditional way of doing it. But just pause for a moment and see, is it a correct approach to do that? Like your Google Drive use your personal account and you have your confidential information there, and you are sharing credentials of your Google Drive account with some third party application. Here it is a photo printing service. In other scenarios it could be anything. So you are sharing your confidential data or credentials with the third party application. But we might get a doubt, but I want to print my photos. How can I do that without sharing the credentials, right? So that for that OAuth is designed. Okay, now we understood, right? You should not share the credentials, because if you share the credentials, photo printing service, it will not just get access to the photos you need. Like maybe you have photos and you have confidential documents, but you need to print only 2 to 3 photos. So photo printing service will get access to everything, and not just for the photos you want. It will get access to everything. Who knows, if the photo printing service is malicious and your confidential data will be leaked. So that is definitely a security threat, right? And one more thing is, and photo printing service needs access to your photos only for a certain period of time. Like only during the time it is printing the photos. Post that, it doesn't require access. But since you have already shared your credentials, it will have access to your Google Drive. So let us assume that okay, now I have shared my credentials with the photo printing service and it logged into Google Drive, it printed the photos, its job is done. Now I can think that I can like change my credentials. Definitely you can do that, but how many times you keep doing that? How many times you keep changing your credentials, right? So that's also not a right approach. And one more thing is, it's not just photo printing service. There could be other third party applications also where you might be interacting with. Now here your photo printing service needs photos, and in some other cases, let's say you have a Facebook account and you want to post some photo on your wall. So Facebook also needs to log into Google Drive to fetch the photo. So in that case, if you share your credentials with the Facebook account as well, then then also, like, you're sharing your credentials with Facebook as well. Now your credentials are with the photo printing service and your credentials are with the Facebook service also. Now if you think that as soon as my job is done I'll change my credentials, how many times you will change your credentials? Like whenever the photo printing service job is done, you change the credentials, or whenever the Facebook job is done you have to change the credentials. So it's definitely overhead to the end user. And one more thing is, let's say photo printing service and Facebook service are trustworthy and you trust them and they are not security threats to you. Now if there is a third party application which is really a malicious application, and you found that it is reading your confidential data on your Google Drive, then immediately what you do is you change your password. So in this case, just because of one third party application, you are revoking access of all third party applications, right? So these are all the drawbacks that we have seen with this approach. So whenever a third party application needs to access your personal data or some protected resource, then you are sharing your user credentials, and that is not a right approach. That is why OAuth 2.0 has come into the picture. Okay. Now what OAuth 2.0 has done is, it will not, like third party application, definitely it has to get access to your photos. Okay, it need not get access to your complete Google Drive, but it needs to get access to your photos, right? So what about to has done here is, instead of sharing the user credentials, now here I have given my Google Drive credentials to the photo printing service, right? Instead of giving my Google Drive credentials, what it will do is, it will share or it will give some access token. Like let us assume it gives some token. Okay, so this token, it is valid only for some time. Okay, and using this token, it will access only few resources, not the complete resource. Okay, so instead of user credentials, now what photo printing service or Facebook application does is, it will try to get access token from the Google Drive, and then using that access token, it will access the photos. So here the benefit is, you don't get access to the complete user Google Drive of an user. Okay, and now this photo printing service or the Facebook service has to access photos only for a certain period of time, right? So this token is valid only for certain amount of time, post which it will be expired. Okay, and this token will have a limited scope. When I say scope, it means that maybe it has access only to few photos or the complete photo folder. So or it can have access to the document folder. So it defines the scope, to which folder or to which resources my access token is valid. So instead of sharing the user credentials, what it has done is, we will share, anyhow you need access, we will share an access token through which you can access the photos or whatever you require securely, and then you get your job done. So this is how OAuth works. And coming to the agenda, so we will see what are all the roles present in the OAuth, and the protocol flow, authorization grant, everything. Now, in the above, like these are the roles that are present in the OAuth 2.0, like resource owner, resource server. I'll explain a client and authorization server. I'll explain with this example. Now, resource owner. When I say resource owner, here uh, photos, who is the owner of the photos? Now here the main thing is, you have to print the photos, so photos has to be printed. So which means that photos is a protected resource. This is the resource, because this resource has to be printed. So here photos is the resource. And who is the owner of the photos? I'm the owner of the photos, because it's my Google Drive account, and on my Google Drive account I have photos. So the end user or myself is the resource owner. When I talk about the roles, there are four roles specifically. First one is the resource owner. So here resource is the photos, and the who is the owner of the photos? The person who's like whoever the Google Drive account belongs to, that person is the resource owner. And resource server. Now I have photos, right? Where these photos are lying? These are lying on Google Drive. It is not like it's lying on some special account called Google Drive. So here resource server is the Google Drive. Google Drive is the resource server, photos are the resources, and the Google Drive account is the resource owner, right? And then here client, who is the client here? Whatever is a third party application, that is the client here, because the client is accessing your resources. So here photo printing service, Facebook application, all these are the third party application which are nothing but clients here. And authorization server. So authorization server is the one which gives you the access token, okay, which gives you the access token or the refresh tokens. So in many cases it differs, like authorization server and the resource server both can be same or can be different as well, okay. So these are the roles that are present in the OAuth 2.0. Now let us understand the flow. So what happens here is, this is the protocol flow basically, and this OAuth 2.0 is supported only on HTTP, not on other protocols. Now in the, like, this is the diagram. You have a client, third party application. Here you can say this is a printing service. Resource owner, who is the resource owner? That the account, the Google Drive account person is the resource owner. And authorization server, let us assume it's a another server that we have brought it up, and the resource server is a Google Drive here. Now what happens is, for the first time when the photo printing service wants to access the photos, it will talk to resource owner. Like, I need, it will specify the scope also, like I need access to these photos, please grant me access. It will ask this. What resource owner does is, it will provide the authorization grant. So we will talk about this authorization grant in detail later, but let us assume that this authorization grant can be any code kind of thing, okay, or any code or notification which says that, okay, I'm allowing access to these photos. Now let us assume it has got a code as part of authorization grant. It need not be just the code, it can be anything. Now let us assume, most of the times on mobiles or on the applications you will see, right, like this so and so app is allowing access to your contacts. So it is asking permissions to access contacts on your mobile phone. You will click yes or no. So authorization grant is such kind, like where the resource owner, like when I say authorization request, here what it shows is, like even on Facebook or on mobile, most of the people have seen, like whenever you install a Truecaller app or any other thing, you will get a notification, allow access to the mobile contacts. So that is the authorization, like whenever the client talks to resource owner, that request goes to the resource owner. And what resource owner does is, if the resource owner clicks on yes, okay, I'm granting access, so back end what happens is, there could be, let us assume now a code is generated, okay, by the authorization server, and the resource owner will give you the authorization code, okay. Now client has got a code. What client now does is, it will send the code to the authorization server, okay. Now my resource owners gave me access, okay. What it says is, my resource owner, the person to which the photos belongs to whom the photos belongs to, gave me the access, and this is the code that he has given. Take me this code and give me the access token. So this authorization code or the grant is exchanged for access token, okay. So what authorization server does is, it will check the code, and if it is valid, then what it does is, it will give you the access token. So access token is like it has some expiry time, it has the user scope also. Access token usually it is some kind of encoded one, it is not just a plain string. What does the access token includes is, it will have the it will have the roles or the scope, like to which photos or to which path this particular client has access to, and what is the expiry time of the access token. So all those details are present in the access token. Now what client does is it will give the, like, it will talk to resource server, like, okay, it will talk to Google, right? This is my access token, allow me accessing your photos. So it checks the access token, and if it is valid, what it does is, okay, your access token is valid, in return you can access my photos. Now you might like that is the flow how it works. What happens is, first client request access to the resource owner like Google Drive. I want to access your photos. Then what it does is it will give you the access allow. When it gives the access, it will give you the code. Let us assume it gives the code, and when you give the code, authorization server gives you the access token, and using the access token you can access the photos. You might wonder why this authorization grant is required. Why not access token directly? Okay. So those we will talk in detail in the later videos. But let us assume that now this authorization grant step is there. So here authorization grant, when I was talking about, I said there are multiple authorization grants. Now here sometimes you get a code, sometimes you get something else. Okay. So this authorization grant are of four types: authorization code, implicit, and the resource owner password credentials, and the client credentials. Okay. So when I say authorization code, this is the flow. Yeah, the client requests the resource owner to give the access. What it will do is it will return a code. Okay, in return it will return the code in return. So that is the authorization code flow, though we will talk in detail in later videos. So whatever the flow that I have said till now comes under the authorization code flow. And the implicit flow, so in the implicit flow, what happens is you don't have this authorization grant at all. So a client, what it asks is, it asks the resource owner, please give me the access, or the authorization server. So what it does is, authorization server will give you the access token. Okay. Now you would have seen me like exchanging the words, like now in the implicit flow, the client is asking the authorization server the access token. But in this diagram, I was saying you, the client is directly talking to the resource owner. But whatever the flows I have explained here, mostly whatever the client that is interacting with the resource owner, mostly that are via authorization server. That is the best way. Like whenever client wants something access, it talks to the authorization server, and authorization server will give you the access. That is the best way. Okay. Now the implicit flow is like the you don't have this authorization code anything. Client directly talks to the authorization server to give the access token. What authorization server does is it gives you the access token, and using the access token you can directly contact the resource server to access the photos. And there are other flows also: resource owner password credentials and the client credentials. So in the first flow, when I was saying this authorization code, what had happened is, like I said, you right, you will get a pop-up saying allow notifications or not. So that is one flow. And the resource owner credentials is, the resource owner will share credentials with the client actually. Using the credentials, like resource owner will share the credentials with the client, and what it will do is it will log in using the credentials. Now you might say that OAuth 2 is designed to solve this problem. It is not supposed to use the resource owner's credentials. But here this flow will come when client and resource owner have a very good trust. And here every time it will not use the resource owner credentials. So resource owner credentials will share the credentials with the client. What client does is it will log in, or it will talk to authorization server by passing the credentials, and authorization server will give you the access token. So only for the first time the credentials are used, and for the remaining times it will fetch the access token, and using the access token it will talk to the resource server. So only for the first time it is used, and it is very rare, and it is used in a scenarios where there is a high trust between the client and the resource owner. And there is another flow also called client credentials. So client credentials is like when the resource server itself is the client. Okay, when the client is owner of the photos, then client uses its credentials to talk to authorization server and fetches the access token. But we will talk in detail about these flows in later. Okay, now as I said you here, it will give you the access token, right? So our access token is given, and I said this access token is valid only for some time. So after access token is explained how the flow looks like. So here is the flow. What happens is, as I was saying, for the first time, and the client will talk to authorization server. Okay, authorization server, and what it will do is, like, let's say here it might here authorization grant can be code, or can be the credentials, or can be a nothing, because it would have got code already from the resource owner, or it would have already got the resource owner credentials, or it might be using the client credentials also, as I was explaining here on these four flows. Now it will give the code to the authorization server, and what authorization server returns is access token and refresh token both. It's not just access token, because what happens is, whenever the access token expires, client can talk to authorization server using refresh token, and it can fetch a new access token. That is why refresh token is given here. So when you pass code to the authorization server, it will give you the access token and the refresh token. And the client, what it does is, using the access token, it will talk to resource server, and it will get the photos. And the next time it will talk to resource server using the access token again. Now instead of getting the photos, what it will do is, it will get the invalid token, because the token is expired. It is valid only for some time, not for life, not for complete lifetime, right? So that's when the token is expired, what it will do is, it already has got this refresh token, right? Using this refresh token, the client will talk to authorization server again. So here if you see, this is the flow, refresh token. So when it gives you the refresh token, it will give you the access token and refresh token again. Here the refresh token is optional anyway, that we'll talk later. So this is how the flow looks like. Yeah, so to summarize, OAuth 2 is specifically designed to for the authorization, delegated authorization, because here if you see, nowhere photo printing service is authenticating to the Google Drive. It has just got the access token, which will specify that only this particular service token has authorization only for the photos. Okay, so like it is specifically designed for the third party application to gain access to the protected resources in a secure manner. That is why OAuth 2.0 framework is designed. And to understand the flow, this is the protocol flow diagram, where the client will talk to the resource owner and gets the code, and using the code, client gets the access token from the authorization server, and using the access token, protected resources are accessed. And whenever the access token is expired, it will pass the refresh token, and it will get the new access token. That is how the flow works. And we will talk about each and every component in detail in the upcoming videos. This is just the introduction how OAuth 2.0 works. Thank you.